I tried to film this in my dad's nice autumnal front garden, but unfortunately just as the rain stopped, a couple of scrouders came and sat on the green, so unfortunately I wasn't able to do that. A few weeks ago I uploaded a video showing the progression of Cumbrian over the centuries. But what is Cumbrian, I hear you ask? Well, Cumbrian's a variety of English spoken in the northwest of England, and it's probably the variety I'm most interested in and the one I study most. And in fact, a lot of the things I put in that video, for example, the exact details of the diphthongization processes, are things that I had sort of examined myself. I don't want to say worked out, because I'm sure if I said that somebody else would come up and turn out to have already done it. But yeah, so today I'm gonna go through the phonology of the later Cumbrian dialect, so the dialect as it was spoken between sort of 1700 and 1900, and explain its vowels and its consonants and the finer points of pronunciation that differentiate it from standard English. So the short vowels of later Cumbrian, and a lot of this applies to the modern Cumbrian dialect as well, are a, e, I, o, u. A as in cat, sat. E as in wet, met. I as in wheat, sit. O as in brock, knock. O as in moon, gun, son. The long vowels are a, e, I, o, u. A as in barn, tarn. E as in thwaite, day. I as in neat, seat. O as in woe, cord. U as in hoose, moose. And note that we're not talking about the Scottish U sound, we're talking about an U, a very peripheral U sound. Hoose, moose, loose. There are three what I would call uncontroversial diphthongs in Cumbrian, and those are oi, ow, a. A as in wait, nice. Oi as in boil, oil. Ow as in louder, nout, yow. And then there are the three what I would call controversial diphthongs, which are ya, yo, wo, o, ear, ear, wo. Ya as in stian, bian, or stien, bien. Yo as in jubben, juf, bjuk, or jubben, juf, birk, neek. Wo as in thworn, squorn, morn, or gwort, bwort. Another creative shot for you all. As nice as it is out here, it is starting to rain, so I'm going to go inside now. Let me take my chair with me actually. There are a couple of differences in the finer pronunciation of consonants as well. So with my own accent, which is not far off received pronunciation English, the way there's a thing called pre-glottalization. So in a word like milk, or cut, or hit, you can hear that between the vowel and the vowel or liquid consonant and the last plosive sound, the syllable coda, which is the end of the syllable, you can hear a glottal stop. I don't let the sound fizzle out. Milk, cut, hit. But the glottis closes and the sound stops suddenly. Milk, hit, cut. This occurs quite a lot throughout English dialects. There are some dialects that don't have it, and Cumbrian was one of those dialects, and still is one of those dialects, that doesn't have pre-glottalization. So, wit, cut, get, rather than wit, cut, get. Another thing is the velarization of the L sound. In my accent, which is again not far off RP, what I have is what's called a complementary distribution, where one sound exists in one position and another sound exists in another position. So at the syllable onset, at the start of a syllable, I'll use a L sound, which I think is post-alveolar in my case. So a L sound, as in let. But at the end of a syllable, I'll use a velarized L sound, as in milk, alcohol, things like that. So the difference between those, just to emphasize it, L, 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 L. If you speak with one of a number of Scottish accents, the chances are you will have a velarized L at the syllable onset and the coda, the start and the end of a syllable. So you'll have velar L's across the board, or velarized L's I should say, across the board. So let, lesp. In Cumbrian, or at least in later Cumbrian, this doesn't seem to have been the case, and indeed with older and more rural speakers nowadays it's not the case. Across the board you have alveolar or post-alveolar L sounds. You don't have a velar L at any point in the word. So a good example of this is the word lilt. So in my accent it's L, I, O, T. L, post-alveolar, I, O, velarized, T. You see, L, I, O, T, lilt. Certain Scottish speakers might say lelt, lelt, with L, E, O, T, velarized across the board. A Cumbrian speaker would say lilt, lilt, with L, I, L, T. And notice lilt, lilt. There's no glottalization before the T. So those are a couple of points about the finer details of Cumbrian pronunciation. Another thing about consonants is that some clusters have actually changed quite dramatically in Cumbrian. So a cl or a gl cluster, a k-l or g-l, will become tl and dl in later Cumbrian. I've not heard this today, but it was recorded quite a lot in the 1800s, and indeed in 1913 in Brilliot's examination of the Lawton dialect. So a word like clear would become clear. A word like glimmer would become glimmer. After a nasal consonant, often a plosive consonant will disappear if there's a vowel afterwards. So spindle corresponds to Cumbrian spindle, spindle. Bramble corresponds to Cumbrian brimmer, brimmer. Anger corresponds to anger. Longer corresponds to langer. I've been describing older forms of Cumbrian, but there have been some interesting developments over the last sort of 120 years or so, from the time Brilliot was writing in 1913. One of those is that the dialect has become largely non-rhotic in younger speakers. Older speakers, and some older and more rural speakers like my granddad, still pronounce ra or ra in coda position in some circumstances, but for the most part people don't, just like in standard English, or standard RP English I should say. Another thing that's happened, which Brilliot noticed the very start of, is the diphthongization of oo and e, as in hoos and neat. So in Brilliot's time these were pronounced hoos and neat, which have just started to break, and actually he noted with the oo sound that it had just started to break and that he suspected it would diphthongize in the future. And indeed nowadays you would say hoos, though, no, and nate, breit, sate. Another thing is, in later Cumbrian, ra and ra, an alveolar trill and tap, were allophones of the same phoneme. I'm going to make a video about that soon, which means people consider them to be the same sound, and they were used in all positions where there was a rhotic consonant. I was going to make a longer documentary style thing about this, which I have partially edited, but I decided not to because I think it would bore a lot of people, and I'm probably going to make another video explaining the development of the sounds as I think they probably happened. And I'm going to use insights from Brilliot's book and insights from books from the 1800s and 1700s as well. But for now, here is a reading of a few of the words from a book from, I think, 1667. I'll correct that on the screen if I'm wrong. Called the Glossarium Brigantinum, which is the earliest post-vowel shift text describing Cumbrian vocabulary that I have come across.
Estate.
Atterkop.
Bauer.
Brimmelkeit.
Ploeg.
Kroom.
Diet.
Dochti.
Fijn.
Verwij.
Kopen.
Hagworm.
Keld.
Liever.
Reed.
Stark.
Zwaard.
Wheat.
Wheel.
Jud.
If ever twa farmers a carl should meet, you'll hear what they say to the side of the street. Out roar of the bushes comes the voice of good cheer, and these is the words for certain you'll hear. How's to gan on, lad? How's to gan on? Thou's reckon gae badly, but how's to gan on? If you're seeking your fortune in some foreign land, it's then that you'll valley the clasp of a hand, and lads a world over will know comfort and bliss to hear all lingo spoken, somewhat like this. How's to gan on, lad? How's to gan on? Is Carol Toon horse still standing yet? How's to gan on? For 3 years young Joseph courted Elizabeth Jane, that he wanted some pushing at Lake Plane. A father, he thought would never make a match. Say he whispered ye night, just to bring lad up to scratch. How's to gan on, lad? How's to gan on? There's mapping near hurry, but how's to gan on? Now I feared when me short span on earth is gien by, and I find mysel aloft and adrift in the sky. When I reach golden yets, and I knock to get in, I'll bet you St. Peter'll say with a grin, how's to gan on, lass, how's to gan on? Thou's first up for a cummerlancy, how's to gan on?